This podcast is sponsored by Intentional Living magazine, your ultimate guide created to help infuse purpose and passion into your everyday life. From expert features that provide valuable insights to thought-provoking content that sparks transformation. This magazine and online platform is a perfect source of inspiration for those who truly believe in the power of intentional choices.
Ooh, can we just talk about labelling and what it is? Episode 2.
Episode 2.
What's this all about?
It's all about taking on labels to validate who we are, rather than embracing who we are.
Okay, let's talk about labels.
Let's talk about labels. Okay, Clarabelle, can we just talk about labels?
Yeah.
We get asked all of the time, what do you do? What is it you do? And most people have got their elevator pitch, which I bloody hate, and someone said to us once, didn't they, what's your elevator pitch? And I'm going, but because we do so much, and because we do some really magical stuff, and because
we work with so
many different types of people, that we come up with a different title every single week, and we laugh about it. So can we just talk about this need for labels?
Yes.
And if any of the listeners or people watching can give us a clue about what our permanent label can be, or do we actually need one? Or can we just be Claire and Jules, space and freedom?
Yeah. Okay, so the conversation that we had on the way in, because we're obviously, these are new episodes, a new podcast, and we were like, what are we going to say? What are we going to introduce ourselves as? What do you normally say? Because last week you were a high performance coach, now a global holistic life and business strategist, and obviously working in the field of personal development and working with our clients, and also working spiritually on our own spiritual development. And in yoga, as a yoga teacher, we talk about the soul and the spirit, and that it has no labels. But then as human beings in this world that we live in, by labeling things helps us to make sense of the world that we live in. However, when does it get that it's too much, that you label everything, like every person's behavior? So when I talk about this in some of my teachings, it's about, and especially as leaders in say business, or if you're working in an organisation, which most of us are, you will spot the person that comes in late. They might come in at 9:05 in the morning, and they might do that, say, twice in a month, but they might get labelled as, that person's always late. No, they've been late twice in that month, but is there a reason why they're late? Are they okay? Is the roadworks on the way to work, or is there something going on to make them late for work? But naturally, the human mind will label and put that attachment on someone. So for me, it's around that awareness of when you do label yourself, or when you do label someone else or a certain behaviour, are you labelling that person, or are you labelling the behaviour? Because the person is not the behaviour.
Or the role.
Or their role.
Now, I've got an Open G Centre doing human design. That's about self-identity, self-love, direction, purpose. And what that means is that I have got a choice. I can be a chameleon. I've got this chameleon energy, so I can be anybody that I want to be whenever I want to be it. And that, for me, is the reason why I've got all these different labels that I put on myself to fit into what society expects and what people expect. So what do you do? Well, actually, I'm just me. And what I bring to the party is, I like so much, but actually to tell you what that is in
a 60-second
elevator pitch or whatever is really, really tricky. I facilitate expansion, transformation in anyone that...
In
humans, yeah. But then, well, what does that mean? But I guess the thing that... So first and foremost is that label of, we need a label, or we think we need a label about who we are and what we do. And then that label becomes us as the person. And what we find is that when you have the label and then that label falls away, so let's say you are married and you become a wife or a husband, and then you get divorced, and then your label is you're a divorcee, or you lose your partner and you become a widow or a widower, or you are a solicitor or a lawyer and then you retire, and then you become an ex-lawyer or an ex-solicitor. And this is where people have real struggles because they lose that comfort blanket of the label.
Yeah, it's their identity, isn't it?
And it's their identity. But actually underneath all of that is the person, and all the label is the name. So my name's Jules. And yes, I can help you. Some people want the bells and whistles. So as a one energy, I would want to know how you can help me and what my outcomes are going to be and all of those things. And so I guess it's the whole thing about the societal change and what's expected. And we're never going to change everything, but it's about making that start. And it's working. We work with so many people that when they lose that bits of their identity, that's what creates some of their challenges.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's a good thing that we change our title every week. What do you think?
And again, being conscious of this work, and by the way, we are work in progress. Everybody is always work in progress. No one's ever the finished article in when they're growing spiritually and personally. But we are very conscious. There's a lot of people who are waking up to looking at within and not attaching a label to us, because we are so many things to so many people. But who we are in the essence of the soul is I am who I am. I am is
and being comfortable with that and taking the power back here into who you are. And that's what I feel as a society we don't do. We've got this wheel that we're on, and actually the gift is sharing with people, going back to taking the power back here, and actually who are you? Who are you? Because once you get comfortable with who you are, then losing the labels becomes less of a transition.
Yeah.
So like my kids are getting to the point now where one's left home, one's desperately wants to leave home. And like
Why?
some people have,
What are you
well,
doing
she
to
doesn't
them?
actually, she doesn't. Well, one's living his dream. One's absolutely living his dream. And the other one doesn't know what her dream is yet. I feel like she probably wants to live our dream with us because it's easier because she doesn't want to work. And, but.
Is this with you and Mark?
Yeah.
Yeah, she wants to stay with mum and dad. And she's only 17, isn't she?
Yeah, but it's about, because she knows what our plans are, it's almost like, well, that sounds good. And actually, if she wants to do that, then that's absolutely fine. But with some people, they'll get like empty nest syndrome, where they feel like, oh, I'm not a mum anymore. What's my purpose? And again, if you take the power back to you and concentrate on who you are and what you are about and what lights you up and what your passions are and what your purpose is, then the empty nest syndrome, potentially, it could go away.
Well, it's an identity, instead of it being an identity crisis, it's an identity opportunity.
Absolutely. And it's just like, imagine that. For me, releasing my children like fledglings into the world, that's what our job, for me, that was my job, to give them, empower them to be able to make the decisions they want to do and have the confidence and the abilities to do it.
And go and have their
Take
life.
Job done. Yeah. When people say, do you miss them? No. Because
and when they're home, you're present with them. But when they're gone, they're out and they're living their life.
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely.
I get that.
So yeah.
Going back to on the subject of labels, can we just go back to your story? Because people will hear about this in further episodes around when you had fibromyalgia. Were you labeling yourselves as sick?
Yeah.
Yeah, because in that world, just explain to us your labeling of what you were saying to yourself, what you were telling yourself when you were really sick with fibromyalgia. Because again, this is that whole thing about when we become the label, then that's what we start believing and that's what we start living. So what were you telling yourself when you were labeling yourselves as sick? And
I think for me, when I was really sick, there was always I had to keep going. So there was a need to keep going because I had a family to look after, but I was doing it not at my best. And in fact, I was doing it probably not very well at all. And I wasn't being well. But I was very aware of it, and therefore I started to make excuses. So like for my brother's 40th, I didn't go. But they understood because she's not well.
Yeah.
You know, like that. And actually that's almost like a get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
So it's almost you become that get out of jail free card. I can't do that, no, because I've got fibromyalgia. I can't do that, no, I'm not well. I can't go to my sisters because I feel really bad. And then they go, oh, you feel really bad? Oh, don't worry about it. How are you? You okay? You need to rest. Okay.
It's and then
and it's almost like, right, let's get on. And then what happens is you slowly just become more isolated and become that condition. And it's a really, really fine line because there is comfort in that safety blanket. And that safety blanket can look different for so many people, right? Because when you can't work, you can't earn money. So when I was sick, it was the first time in my life that I'd ever had to rely on the benefit system. And there was a level of resistance to that to start with. But because I had no choice, because my body had just said no, there was almost like that acceptance of it's okay, I can breathe. I'm going to get a bit of support there to cover that. So then for people that have been in that for a long time, it's almost like, and they might get housing support and they might get support with the kids and they might, all of the different supports that they get for being disabled, getting well means you're going to lose that support.
Yeah.
So what happens then? Again, there's a big leap of faith because once you dip your toe into getting well, what's if I'm well? And then I'm not going to get this support. But then if I get a job, I really want a job. But then if I get a job and then I get sick again, I'm going to lose my job. And then it's about 12 months to get back in the system. You can see how people can get stuck in there.
Yeah.
And so what happens is, or what my experience of it is that it's really sad in some ways.
Yeah.
And I find it on the other side of it now quite frustrating. And I know I trigger people.
Yeah.
I know I trigger people in this. And I know that the people that we've worked with have triggered so many people because there's an element of disbelief. How can you ever get well? Because the medics have said there is no cure. Right? Because I'm not a doctor and you're not a doctor, even though we've got clinical proof, their doctor has not said there is a cure. So what certain people will see is that we're trying to sell them something.
Yeah.
And we're here as Five Energies to talk about bringing solutions and about how we change the world, how we change the way that people can do things. We've got this message.
Can I just say for any listeners that might not know what Five Energy is, this is a Five Energy under the concept of human design. So we will give you some notes on this at the end of the show and we will do an episode on that.
Yeah, for sure. So where was I then?
As a Five Energy, we are here.
So we're here to help the collective.
Yeah.
Now that takes bravery because especially in this world that we're living in now with the keyboard warriors, that like literally people are there to shout you down no matter what. So actually to speak your truth can be quite hard, especially when you have got potentially a lot of conditioning there that you don't want to be seen, you don't want to be heard, you've got to prove yourself, prove that you can do this. Well, we've proved it, now what? Yeah, but you've not got a doctorate. So until you call Dr. Kelly or Dr. Morton, no one's going to listen. So the experience has been that obviously we're in this online digital world, is that there are help groups or support groups. But what I found in those support groups were that they were literally echo chambers of doom, where everyone was just talking about how bad they felt, how much pain they were in, what medication they were taking, what the side effects of that medication were, how rubbish life was, and all of that stuff. And I was going, oh, hang on a minute. I found that actually if you use these 3 things, that can really help. And it was almost like, how very dare you? How very dare you?
Getting blocked from all the groups.
How very dare you help? Because we're not here to be helped.
And it's going back to that. They've labelled themselves, they've identified themselves as I am fibro, I am my illness.
And it is not curable.
Yeah, and it's not curable. And so, and being, again, as human beings, we like to be part of a community. So, but being in such that type of community where they just want to live there. And you get that because you've been there, haven't you?
I get it, and I empathise with it. But that doesn't mean it's not frustrating for me.
Absolutely, because it's like all these people who are shutting out these offers of suggestions, and obviously everyone's got their own background as to where the fibros come from and how it happens, and it doesn't just happen in one go. It happens over a space of time by what's happened to your body and experiences in your life. But the frustration is the people that we've worked with, Charmaine and Mike, who we will get on here as guests, and they're people who we work with on the pilot clinical trial of the Life Freedom Method, which is our signature program in 12 weeks to help people get rid of pain and back into purpose. They are evidence, and they are now feeling that as well, because they labelled themselves as fibro. Are they still calling themselves fibro warriors? Or is that now come, because that's another label, isn't it?
It's a label, yeah.
Again, it's a label. And at the end of the day, Charmaine is Charmaine and Mike is Mike, and they are who they are, and they've been on a journey, and they are now letting other people know, like you are, like we are with the work that we do, that we want to show people that you are not your label. You can change. You are a living, energetic human being that doesn't have to be stuck. And again, the trigger piece, we will trigger people. But that's a good thing, I suppose, because it will help people feel different or feel triggered and ask themselves, why do they feel triggered?
But that's the self-awareness piece. Mm-hmm. And I feel that self-awareness piece is not there unless they've hit that wall.
Yes.
Because unless they really, truly believe that there is an option, and that comes from perception, like perception changes everything. Their perception is there's no cure, because their perception is
they're not seeing cure. They're not,
and their reality is based on their circumstances and where they are and who they're mixing with and what their surroundings are. So when I wrote The Fading Woman, I contacted, rather than posting it in the group, I contacted the admins of some of the groups and said, look, I've written this book. I'd really like to share it, for free. I don't want to sell anything, but I can share people, just give them hope. Didn't respond. Charmaine and Mike have written their book, and it's called From Disabled to Enabled, Our Journey from Pain. And they've both got blocked. Mm-hmm. Of all the groups. And the feedback has been, and I took a screenshot of the feedback, it has been that we all know that there's no cure for fibromyalgia. Now, we're not saying that the Life Freedom Method is a cure. We are helping people adopt a process which ultimately changes lifestyle, changes habits, changes mindset, changes perceptions, opens them up to different ways. That is what leads them to freedom from pain. That is what leads them from pain to purpose. Mm-hmm. So,
and from labels.
Absolutely. And so there is that real, it's really, really tricky. And to be honest, it made me at a point think, actually, do you know what? I don't want to work with this community.
Yeah.
But saying that, there's not that I don't, and what we say now is we will work with anyone that is ready to do the work, right? We're not here to convince people that there is a different way. We're here to share information, to educate, to empower, so that they have a choice. And there's a choice whether you stick with your label, and there's a choice to not. And I stuck with that label, but not for years and years and years. It took me a long time, and it took for me to hit that wall of shutdown that we
So is
talked
that your
about.
turning point in the garden when you felt like you were going to pass away? Yeah. And then you woke up and was like, I'm alive.
I'm alive, sister. I'm like, literally, that was the gift. That was that.
And this is, a big thing for me is it's so sad that people have to get to that point, because that's mostly when people come to us. Like we had a lady on a call last night, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
And she's at that point where she's at the lowest of the lowest. She's in so much pain. She's on all of the medication and she's still not any better. And it shouldn't have to get, people shouldn't have to get to that point to want to be able to change their life. But that's the case of it. For a lot of people, unfortunately. But us creating this podcast is definitely about helping you to educate yourself, asking yourself questions about. So a question for listeners from me would be, where do you label yourself? Because we do to make sense of this world. So are you a mum? Are you a dad? Are you a teacher? Are you a carer? Are you a child? Are you a sister? Are you a brother? Are you a nephew or auntie? And then whatever your job title is, because so many people attach themselves to their job titles as well, don't they? And when I worked in the corporate world and we go through any redundancies, I always used to talk them through the emotional cycle of change. Yeah. And the rock bottom piece on that model is identity crisis. Yeah. And that's where, when people go through redundancy, which is a big change for a lot of people, because we identify ourselves with the role that we are in our job. And once that's taken away, people are lost. But then I think it is, again, it's a good thing, because it gets you to start questioning, who am I? Why am I here? And absolutely. But that's quite magical when you start asking yourself them questions. However, life is so fast paced that a lot of us don't ask them questions. And that's why in our world, we ask them questions with our clients and ourselves every single day. Completely. Sometimes you can be that self-aware, you're observing every single thing you say and do. It can be quite a pain in the arse sometimes, but it's great because you're constantly learning something new. Yeah.
So to add to that question before we wrap up, you've just asked about what are your labels? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to ask, who are you?
Who are you?
Who are you without the labels? Yeah. And I think that's a great time to close.
100%.
So if you've enjoyed this, then hit like and subscribe. And you can find us on our website, which is www.spaceandfreedom.com.
And it's love and light from me.
And it's Sarah from me.